Hello, my name is Jasmine Lee, and I am not your mama's astrologer. Welcome to the week. Boy, how did all that Aries work out for you guys? No matter what, no matter how much fire you can contain and use and, enjoy, I think there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. And we all like to be motivated and we all like to move forward. But I do think when there is that much Aries, when there was that much fire coming at us, it can also manifest as overwhelm, as anger, as frustration, as feeling stopped up, as feeling like things aren't moving. So sometimes when we have something that invites us aggressively into a certain kind of energy, how we respond to that energy is going to vary. It's going to differ. Some people can really move with it, and some people get road rage, so to speak. But this week, we have some things shifting. And I want to draw our attention away from the heavy noticing of Aries and into a vibe of change. I think of the first, of course, anytime big changes on the horizon, the Bob Dylan song pops into my head. The times they are a-changin', because they are. And I almost feel that every generation has a proverbial passing of the guard moment. And I feel like we are at a place in history, in time, where there is an energetic passing of a guard, and how that manifests is going to look differently around the world, but it is still here and it is still present. And I feel that the times they are changing. We are headed into AI. We are headed into political corruption and downfall. And we are in a time of rebirth. And in that way, it can be scary. It can be all of the things, but in an uplifting way. Change at least moves the needle to a different location than where it was before. And if you like acupuncture, like I like acupuncture, sometimes it's about hitting just the right spot to release something that we have been holding, that maybe our country has been holding, that maybe our bodies have been holding, that maybe our souls have been holding for a hot minute. And we're going to start to feel that because on Sunday, the sun moved away from Aries and is now in Taurus. And this starts a really cool week of conversation because as the sun goes into Taurus, Uranus this week is leaving Taurus. So the sun is at the very beginning of Taurus at the beginning of this week, and Uranus is at the very end of Taurus this week, and it moves into Gemini on Saturday. So there is this really interesting capability, ability, notion to think about what has been going on in the last 7 years, because Uranus for the last 7 years has been in Taurus, and it's been all about our foundations and them maybe subtly collapsing, because Uranus is disruptive. It comes and it changes everything. It comes and it is, I think of the cat that for no reason at all gets on the counter and freaking breaks, of course, and always your most expensive, beloved mug off the kitchen counter. Kaboom, crash, oh my God. And you have that moment when your favorite mug breaks of, that was my favorite. And I'm using this because it makes me think of attachment, that we get attached to energy, even if it's stuck, even if it's abusive, even if it's not good. We get attached to certain energies, to certain friendships, to certain lifestyles, to certain jobs. It is amazing how uncomfortable we can get in our lives and yet not change it because it is what we have deemed our life. And when Uranus changes signs, we very rarely will feel, the bigger planets acutely, but when they change signs or when they go into retrograde or when they hit another planet or they hit one of your planets, we feel it. And so we have this ending feeling this week. It's the end of the world, maybe, who knows? It's the end. We're at an end place. And Uranus in Taurus taught us about attachments. Back to the coffee mug, where the cat has broken your most expensive or most sentimental or most favorite mug, and you think, oh, that was my favorite, and that one kind of hurts. a little bit. But what hurts is your attachment to it. That things are going to break. We're going to get broken up with. We're going to lose people. People are going to die. Things are going to change us, move us, and not always because we choose it and not always because we want it. And in fact, grief to me is very Uranus energy because it says we're changing whether you want to or not. And attachment is the or not piece. It is our attachment to what was that holds up what is or what could be. And I think about this a lot because in terms of wanting to accomplish a goal, like take my astrology career, wanting to grow it more, there does have to be the ability and willingness to change, maybe to work harder, maybe to change my life routine to allow for more time and energy to be put into this. But how do we do that when we get so stuck in our routines? So your homework this week is I really want you to think about what are your non-negotiables in your routines? What are 5 things that you do every day or every week that are non-negotiable? I need those. And I want you to list those 5 things that you need every day or every week. You can do this exercise for either or. And then I want you to really think about it. I want you to look at those 5 things and I want you to think, are they non-negotiable? And what if they needed to be negotiable? So Monday, today, we have Mercury right next to Saturn and Mars. So it's a really good day to do this homework because Mercury is the vibe this week and Mercury rules our thoughts. And if Uranus is moving into Gemini at the end of this week and Gemini is ruled by Mercury and Mercury rules our thoughts, then there is huge juju for rearranging our neural pathways this week. And in fact, it'll start a 7-year cycle, a Uranus cycle, maybe longer than 7 years. I can't remember how long this one is going to last, but a longish cycle of how we're thinking, of the flexibility of what could be. And we can't always get to what could be if we aren't willing to examine what is currently. And so today we get this really interesting boost with Mercury being right next to Mars and Saturn. Mars is our warrior, Saturn is our lesson keeper, and it's in our thoughts. So it's discipline. It is hard-working warrior energy discipline. And what do you want to recondition your mind? Because changing your mind takes conditioning. Changing your mind takes work. Making up new, good, better life scenarios means you have to let go of the victimhood of what has happened to you and make room for what could happen to you. And so this is an incredibly maybe challenging way to start the week when we think of, I don't know what I want. I don't know how to make the change. I don't know how to make the next great thing happen to me. That might be what you come up against today is I don't really know where all these roadblocks are or what all I want is. But it is good to ignite the fire of new thought. So however you can change your mind today would be a really magnanimous thing to do. And my advice to you is to do those 5 things. What are your non-negotiable routines? Well, I always wake up at 6 a.m. because I need that much time to get to school. And I always have a cup of coffee in the morning and I always make my bed in the morning. And so there are 3 things that me personally, I do every single morning. And what would happen if I played with those things? Okay, I always get up at 6. What if I got up at 5:45? What if I gave myself 15 more minutes? What would I do with those 15 more minutes? And there is information in what I would do with those 15 more minutes. Am I going to be lazy? Am I going to read? Am I going to scroll? Oh, I hope not for myself that I wouldn't do that. Am I going to drink water first? Because now I know I have time to drink a glass of water before I get to my other non-negotiable, which is I have a cup of coffee. What if I waited to have that cup of coffee or I exchanged it for black tea? I'm not going to do that. This bitch needs not tea. I'm a coffee girl through and through. My body doesn't mind it. Who knows? Maybe I'm a little bloated because of it. Who cares? I want my coffee, but I can play with what I put in my coffee, what time I'm having my coffee. I can negotiate how much coffee I'm having, and I always make my bed. So I don't even want to talk about what would happen if I didn't make my bed, but I guess I should because this is the homework, isn't it? So if I didn't make my bed, well, I feel like that would take away a piece of my own control. And now sometimes I leave the house before my partner. And so the bed isn't made when I leave, but I do always make sure that my side of the bed is popping with lots of clothes on the bottom of it. Don't judge me. But like, how could I see that differently? Do you see where I'm going with this? How could I make double sure the bed is made? If that's one of my non-negotiables and I'm slacking on it, which now that I'm talking about it, seems like I am, how do I make sure that happens? I've slacked on letting the boys leave the house if their beds aren't made, and that is kind of a non-negotiable. So where have my boundaries gone if I am letting that slide? So these are the things, for better or for worse. I'm not saying to bring up the non-negotiables to change them. I'm just saying maybe you could change your mind about them a little bit to get them on trend with where you're headed instead of where you've always been before. 5:45 wake ups for me. Thursday, Venus is going to be right next to Uranus in Taurus. So it's like Venus is giving a little fairy kiss to Uranus, and then it's moving into Gemini on Thursday. So there's a lot of vibes headed towards Gemini. There's a lot of Mercurial energy, and there's a lot of Uranus energy out here. So Venus says goodbye to Taurus. It's really cozy there. And in Gemini, it can be really like non-committal. Like all of a sudden, our love sector is going to need space and room to breathe and change, because Venus being right next to Uranus says we can love differently. We can do this. We can make this work. Whatever this is for you. And what it brings up for me, thinking of all this Mercury and all this Gemini energy and all this change, is I think about breakups. And when I think about breakups, I'll tell you that classically, I have always been the one that has gotten broken up with. My partners have always broken up with me. And I'm going to use this as an example for how we can change our minds about things during this cycle of time, because that could create quite the victim story, couldn't it? And maybe I have strapped that onto my back and said, I don't feel valuable enough, that every relationship I have, that person leaves me. Cue all kinds of abandonment issues, cue feeling insecure, cue feeling not good enough, cue all of that crap. And maybe that's true. And I can tell you, yeah, I have definitely had some fear of abandonment, some self-worth issues, and all of that as a result of being broken up with all the time. But let's talk about chicken or egg, all right? Because where is my self-worth sector if I always make my partners get to the place where they need to leave me? That maybe I overstay. Maybe I overcommit. So instead of saying I always get dumped, it's going to be about rephrasing our stories so that we can do it different, better. I don't always get left. I always stay. I'm a stayer. I'm a working througher kind of person. I am overly committed. I am overly loyal, even in times where it doesn't serve me. And is that healthy? Probably not. Does that mean there's something wrong with me? Probably not. It probably just means that I stay too long in relationships and let the people around me do all the dirty work of breaking up, of cheating, of this, of that, so that I don't have to take responsibility for what was wrong. There's a reframing for you. And yeah, I don't love being dumped. It doesn't feel good. But at the end of the day, I can think of each and every one of my hardest breakups and find something so deliciously expansive in what happens as a result of going through a heartache like that, that I almost find breakups from my past delicious, because they were the times that then I went to the gym more, that I went on more walks, that I listened to more powerful music. Oh my God, my younger breakups, we would be reading Jean-Paul Sartre. We would be existentialist extraordinaire. You know, I would be doing all of these growth edge things that you don't do when you're just in relationships, because you don't need to change because that person expects you to stay the same all the time. So I bring all of this up as a reframing. Reframe your past. I don't always get dumped all the time. I always unconditionally love people, for better or for worse. And do I want to change that? Maybe I do. Maybe I can see how I didn't love myself enough back then to stick up for myself. And now maybe I could love myself more, so that when I see myself in situations where I'm not being treated kindly, I've had some friendships that have been in the realm of not feeling like I get honored the way that I honor in return. It's like you can't always change it when you're in it. And so this is a cycle, you guys, where now you can change it because you're out of it. But you have to get out of a victim mindset. You cannot stay a victim and expect to grow. That's never going to be true. You cannot be the person that you say, I always fill in the blank. This always happens to me. I always get dumped. If you always get dumped, then there is something about you that causes that. So think about that, because we can't control what other people are doing. I can't control my partners getting sick of me or thinking I am too much for them. I can't control that. What I can control is why. What I can control is taking back the plot of my life, starting to see, because I'm a grown-ass woman now. I am 42, starting to see the patterns of my life that led me to where I was. And I know that I grow and I do something about it if I get forced into it. Is that what I want going forward in my life? Do I want to make the changes only because I get forced into it? Only because I get dumped? Only because I lose my mom? My mom passed away and it made me feel like I had to change very fast and in a really sad, intense way? It doesn't always have to be like that. I can notice, recognize my pattern, and start doing the work ahead of time. That's what this week is all about. It is time to stop being a victim of circumstance, because there are signs everywhere right now. Uranus is primed to change you. But as it's moving into Gemini, what's going to be really hard, as the Cheshire Cat says, you can go this way and you can go this way, or you can go up or you can go down, and it's all going to lead somewhere. That's the point of Alice in Wonderland, is no matter what you chose it. And it's going to happen based on your choices. We live in a choose your own adventure reality. And so be very aware and accountable and mindful for what you are choosing. Because if the same thing keeps happening to you over and over and over again, it's time to change it. And that's what Venus, being right next to Uranus says, is that we can change the way we love, the way we commit, the way we see the world as something beautiful or something ugly. It is always a choice. And then Saturday, the sun is going to square Pluto. So this beautiful new sun that is now in Taurus wants to transform us into beings that are activating all of our senses. It is time to stop with the routine. It is time to stop doing the same thing every day. Or if you are forced to do the same thing every day, to transform your opinions of it, to become righteously aware and participatory in this routine of yours. And then also on Saturday, Uranus then heads on into Gemini. And then we get to end the week in this really freaking free place if we want to, if we did the work, if we start recognizing our patterns, if we start going on more nature walks, if we start really seeing each other and what is around us more clearly, because we aren't so attached to what it means about us. We all feel like we are the star of our own shows, and get down with your bad self. Be the star. Be main character energy, hell yes. And also, if you want to be a main character, well, I'm just going to tell you, intense shit happens to the main character of every story ever, or it's boring. And there's no basic bitches allowed. If you want righteous growth, if you want abundance, if you want all of those things that we all want, or maybe not all of us, I don't know, I'm not you, but I want to live. I am so checked in to being alive on this earth. But that means it's for better or worse, baby. It means I have to take accountability for everything that has been going on in my life and say enough or not enough, a little sprinkle more, and see what happens. But the medicine, the secret sauce of Mercury and Gemini and Uranus and all of this really big energy that's here to move us and groove us says, it's all about your perspective. It's all about flipping the script. And it's about saying, instead of I don't want, saying I do want. I think it's much easier to know what we don't want or what we don't like. That's what kids start doing when they first start discovering the world. Oh, I don't like that. Ew, I don't like that. But then we move on to, but I do like this. So it's time to start putting the proper emphasis on the proper syllable in saying, I do like this. I do want that. I want that. Because we get stuck in the don'ts and can'ts, and we get stuck in the victimhood and the lack of accountability, and we can turn that upside down now and say, I do want. I trust. I am. And start really building ourselves back up from a place of desire. And that's what this week is all about, because we get to end the week with Venus sextiling Neptune. So it's this dreamy, dreamy, dreamy transit where we get to speak lovingly and lovely words and lovely sentiments. So now we've done all this work on our habits, our foundations, being ready for change. And then at the end on Sunday, we get to put loveliness to it. Because what is life without poetry? If it's all going to be really hard, pick yourself a gorgeous bouquet of flowers and feel into the desire of life. Because we so often forget in the rumble and tumble of how life moves us. We forget that there's a wash cycle and a rinse cycle and a dry cycle. I mean, we're washing clothes all the time. No one told me that being an adult meant that there was so much laundry, but that's fine. We're a rumble and tumble bunch. We can handle it. And that's what the end of the week is for, poetry. It's for finding the beautiful parts of the work that we are willing to do to be human here on this planet and to be happy. Because you're right. Your fundamental right as a living soul is to be here presently and in a happy place. I do believe our guides, or whatever you believe in, want us to be happy. They do. But we're the ones that kind of get in the way. And this Venus sextile Neptune at the end of the week is a lovely little snowflake upon our nose to tell us that life really is beautiful no matter what's going on. And Mercury also squares Jupiter. So every piece of work you put in this week is going to expand your thoughts times 5. So put in the work. Don't be lazy. Get into it. Yeah. And what I pulled is by the book. I don't know how I feel about pulling that card, because all I can relate it to is, do things by the book and then see it different. Dig into those routines in a very present, aware place. What time do you do the dishes? What time do you go to bed? What time do you wake up? If time is a construct, let's play with it different, better. Wake up 2 minutes early. Do the laundry at dinner time, not in the morning time. Like, play with what has always been true for you. That straight line that you are always walking. How can you ziggity zaggity zoo? And enjoy Wonderland a little bit, because sometimes being lost, that period of time in your life where you felt the most brokenhearted or you felt like there was nowhere to go, that's the time you'll look back on in your life as being the most awakened, the juiciest, the most delicious. I look at some of these times in my life when I was the most brokenhearted over breakups particularly, where I was living really living, you guys, for myself, by myself, and to learn about myself. And it always, always, always took me to somewhere better than where I was before. And you have to believe in that. And by believing in it, by instead of saying I don't want, saying I do want, is the plot twist we've all been waiting for. Thank you so much for listening every week. To those of you who do, it touches my heart on such a profound level. I do believe that if I show up this way every week, that miracles can happen, that this can become the thing that I do that supports me. It is my biggest dream. And I take it apart in my brain every day, all the time, for a way to make it work. And sometimes you just have to let it go and say, but I still show up. I still come here every single day. And you too can help me by telling one friend about me, by sharing my link with 2 friends, because all it takes is every single person to share with one other person. And then the next week, those new people share with their new people, and bada bing, bada boom, life can change. My life can change. Your life can change. And thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next week.